Today's guest on Adversity to Strength is Bethany Shelton, a spiritual guide, frequency healer, and embodiment teacher whose story turns profound loss into radical activation. After the unimaginable death of her only child, Bethany's life didn't become a cautionary tale of grief, it became a doorway. Rather than collapsing under the weight of sorrow, she cracked open and was not despair, but a steady stream of guidance from what she calls her galactic, angelic, and spirit teams. The revelation reshaped everything. Bethany came to see that life is energy, frequency, and vibration, and that loss can be a fierce invitation to remember who we truly are. Bethany's work is not about reliving pain or seeking fixes. It's about shifting out of the overactive mind and into the heart where true creation begins. She teaches people who step out of programs that keep them locked, blocked, and stopped, and into a field of presence, love, and soul level power. Her style is both tender and unapologetically direct, a frequency transmission rather than a therapy session, and she holds space for listeners to feel expand and reclaim their sovereignty. On today's episode, we'll explore what it looks like to transform grief into activation, how to sense the shift energetic patterns that keep us small, and practical ways to embody higher frequency in everyday life. Bethany doesn't just talk about healing, she embodies it, and she's here to share tools and perspective that can shift how you feel in your bones. Bethany, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Great to have you.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. So excited.
I'm pleased to hear it. Thank you so much for
Yes.
coming on. Take me back to the beginning of wherever your journey started from. What happened there?
Wow. Wow. Okay. So everything that I'm fixing to talk about, like you said, is everything energy, frequency, and vibration. And in 2020, I had no idea about any of this. So in 2020, one day I was working a little 30 job, and my manager comes to me. He's like, Bethany, I need you to clock out. I was like, you what? You need me to clock out? It's like 2:30 in the morning. What are you talking about? She was like, yeah, you need to clock out. You got people out in the parking lot. And I was like, what? All right. So I go clock out and I pop the doors open, and what do I see, Lee? Every single one of my immediate family staring back at me. And so I walked up to him. My mom said, Bethany, I need you to sit down. I was like, okay. So I sat down. She said, Bethany, Kevin, which is my only child, Kevin has been killed tonight. He was killed in a car wreck. A car crossed over into his center line, hitting him head on, killing him instantly. Now, Lee, in that moment, I was at my whole heart, just everything just crumbled. And I let out a scream so loud, so rare to me that I collapsed on the ground. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I failed. I failed as a mother. I failed to protect him. I blamed myself. I shamed myself, guilt, all of it, grief, sorrow, all of it. And I was devastated. But here's where something interesting started to take place. The day of his funeral, I'm in my son's bedroom. I'm on my knees and I asked God, I said, God, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do what is being required of me today, but please send me some kind of sign. Well, Lee, God showed up and showed out that day, because as I'm walking away from the burial site, it's a cloudy day and the clouds separated. And in that moment, popped out a rainbow. There's my sign. There was my sign. And I didn't realize how big that sign was, Lee, till a little bit later
Mhm.
on in my healing journey. So that first year was a year of absolute, sometimes it's hard for me to even remember because I was so hurt, so um, devastated. And I'm just going to be honest with you and
Yeah.
your audience. My son rode motorcycles. I ride motorcycles. And so I would put my son's helmet on and I'd get on the back of that street bike. And I thought it would be easier for me to rev this thing up going 135 miles an hour and wrap myself around a tree than it would have to be to have to wake up another day without my baby. And I felt that.
Yeah.
I meant that. Yeah. But something interested started to take place. In that year, I started to research NDEs, which is near death experiences. And what these people were
Mhm.
coming back and saying that they had experienced when they left out of their bodies, they quote unquote died, was absolutely so intriguing, so interesting to me that I found that I started to just almost fixate. That's all I would pay attention to. That's all I would listen to. And I started to feel something that these people were saying that they did not enjoy the body, that they didn't want to come back to the body, that they were totally in pure love, joy, bliss, all of this stuff. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. But something started to happen. I started to get like downloads of information. I started to write down on in journals this information. I At the time I wasn't even aware of what I was writing. I was just
Yeah.
writing. So where it started to really shift was after that first year. I was one day I was sitting on my couch, and I was like, "Man, shoot, I got to go get in the shower." I said, "Oh, okay." I go in my bathroom and I pull back my shower curtain, and Lee, I look down inside of my bathtub, and I look down and I find coins, nickels, dimes, pennies. Now, I don't know about you and your audience members, but I don't shower with coins. I don't have them in my hands. I don't have them in my pockets. You know what
That
I mean?
conversation before.
Yeah. And I was like, what in the world? So I picked up one of these coins and it had my son's death year on it, 2020. I was like, well, dang, that's kind of interesting. But I wasn't able to put it together. So several days had passed. I get up out of bed as I normally do, make my bed as I normally do. That night, I come pull my sheets back, and what do I find inside of the sheets, Lee? You got it. Coins. Now, I looked at it, I was like, now, those coins weren't here this morning what in the world going on? Still, I'm not the sharpest tool in the box, I guess. I wasn't able to put it together then. Well, 2 weeks had passed, 2 weeks. And I go vacuum my whole house, vacuum it all. I go put the vacuum cleaner up. I come back and look on my freshly vacuumed floors. And what do I find, Lee? You got it. Coins. Now,
Yeah.
those coins were not just there. I just vacuumed. So I picked it up and I looked and it had my son's birth year on it. I was like, now this is just, this is just too much. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm finding coins all over my house. I don't know what in the world's going on. She said, oh my goodness, Bethany, your father and we're finding coins all over our house too. I said, what? She said, yeah, all over our house. She said, I think it's Cabin trying to communicate with you. I said, what? I didn't even know this was possible. I hung up the phone. I run out onto my patio, onto my deck, and I said, hey, Cabin, hey, buddy, if this is you, man, can you show up for me like a bluebird or a redbird? Lee,
Yeah.
the very next day, everywhere I turned, I was stalked by a blue jay or a cardinal. Everywhere I turned. I said, oh my God, this boy is trying to communicate with me. But it was interesting because Kevin came to me in a dream and he said, Mom, he said, when I was in my body, he calls it his concrete shoes. He said, but Mom, the body is the most densest thing on that planet. He said, when I was in my body, it was like walking around in concrete shoes and quicksand. And I was like, oh. He said, but Mom, when I was in my body, you and I vibrated on a frequency just like kind of similar to how you and I are right now, Lee. He said, but Mom, when I cross back over into energy frequency, when I quote unquote die, I rose in frequency, in vibration. He said, but Mom, you dropped in frequency vibration because you were in grieving, sorrow, pain, blame. He said, do you see how far it is for us to communicate? And I was like, oh my God. Okay. So I had to go take a look at emotional intelligence and the frequency chart. And what I found in my research absolutely blew me away. Now, when we are in a frequency of grief, guess where that vibrates at on the chart? It vibrates at 75 hertz. Sorrow vibrates at 50 hertz. Fear vibrates at 100 hertz. Guess where death vibrates at? 0 hertz. So you mean to tell me when I am in grief, sorrow, and guilt?
Give me one sec. Give me one sec.
All right. So it was interesting. My son came to me in a dream and he was like, Mom, he was like, when I was in my body, which he calls it his concrete shoes, because he said, Mom, the body's the most dense thing on that planet. He said, when I was in my body, it was like in concrete shoes, walking in quicksand. And I found that interesting. He said, but when I was in my body, you and I vibrated on a frequency, kind of like how you and I are, Lee, right here, right now. He said, but Mom, when I quote
Mhm.
unquote died and rose in frequency, I rose and you dropped because you were in grief, sorrow, guilt, blame, shame. He said, Mom, do you see how far it is for us to communicate? And I was like, what? So I had to go take a look and do some research on the emotional frequency chart. And what I found
Yeah.
blew me away because grief vibrates at 75 hertz, sorrow vibrates at 50 hertz, fear vibrates at 100 hertz. Guess where death vibrates at? Ha! 0 hertz.
Way down.
So you mean
Zero.
to
Yeah.
tell me, you mean to tell me when I was feeling grief, sorrow, guilt, fear, I was vibrating right next to death on a frequency chart, on a frequency.
Yeah.
But here's the
Yeah.
thing, we all have an electromagnetic field, and that electromagnetic field proceeds us 6 to 8 feet out in front of us, 360 degrees all the way around. So when I was choosing to think, feel, believe in grief, sorrow, hurt, anger, my electromagnetic field constricted and restricted in on me.
Yeah.
And what does that do to the body?
Yeah.
That puts the body into fight or flight. Well, what happens after time? If you do that long enough, what shows up? Dis-ease, because
Yeah.
you are absolutely in fight or flight. But isn't it interesting that we weren't taught about energy, frequency,
No.
and
No.
vibration? No,
No. 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 And
no.
I had a guest on. She's a lovely lady, Sheila, and she was in. Her husband died, and she spent 6 years journaling. Then after that, she stopped. She got what she wanted out of it. It was a really interesting story. She was all about affirmations, and she would only look about positive on no matter what. She missed the plane. She looked to the positive side. So I was giving her all these questions, and she was just batting them away. She was saying about the level of frequencies as well. Very, very well known.
Because the thing is that, once again, my son's vibrating in a higher realm, in a higher frequency, in a higher vibration. I'm down here in a lower. You can't be vibrating in a low frequency and expect to have higher connections to higher frequency. That's just not a thing. That's not a thing.
Cool.
That's not even possible.
Yeah.
So I found it very interesting for me that, okay, what does my electromagnetic field consist of? Well, what if I told you that your thoughts are a frequency, are a vibration, has an energetic signature on them? What if
Yeah.
I told you that? So, gaining awareness of the mindset, of the mental chatter, of the pain looping, storytelling that I was choosing to allow into my body, being, or in reality. But, it's really interesting too when my teams came in and said, Bethany, go take a look at how do you think we were all programmed and taught how to grieve? Now, this is going to be an interesting awareness. What do you think is the one piece of technology that we all have in our homes that I had with my son that we're still using to this day? Isn't it interesting? It's called a television. Well, isn't it interesting? Children from the ages of 0 to 7 operate on a brave waveform of theta. Theta is the same wavelength as hypnosis. Children from the ages of 0 to 7 intake information not of logic, but through visual and audio on repetition to get an
Yeah.
emotion. Just like This, well, you can't see because my screen, but this is the
Yeah.
color pink. How many of us told our children we hold up a color? This is pink. They get the visual pink audio. This is pink on repetition. Good job. Way to go. Atta girl. But isn't it interesting how many of us sat down from the ages of 0 to 7? We're in theta brave waveform. That's the same thing as hypnosis. And we turned on the television. It's telling you a vision through visual and audio on repeat to get a feeling.
Yeah.
And we clocked in and watched Disney movies. Now, when my teams came and told me to do a deep dive on these movies, it's very interesting that all of these movies are in lower aspects of frequency. Now, Dumbo, remember Dumbo? Dumbo just
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
fly. You know, he
Yeah.
he was not good enough, less than, fear, worry. He was separated from his mother, grief, anxiety, separation. Same thing as Lion King. Lion King, he was unworthy, not good enough, separated from his pride. We were taught at a young age that this is how what we do. This is how you're supposed to react. This is what we were. This is a taught
Yeah.
behavior. And I've got a whole list. These lower aspects of frequency we were taught through Disney Pixar movies and holiday movies. And then, like I told you just before, your electromagnetic field, when you watch this stuff, it puts you into fight or flight, worry, fear, anxiety, less than not enough. You're operating lower frequencies. You're not going to be able to reach the higher. Worry, fear, looking outside of yourself, not good enough. Yeah. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't know anything better. You just watch it. You don't know the effects that it has on there. And the same as people's moods and the law of attraction. You send out those vibes. Are they going to be negative ones? Are they going to be good ones? What are you sending
Well,
out to the universe?
Well, isn't it interesting? Like you just said, law of attraction. So what you think about, you bring about. What you bring about, you're going to experience. So if
It's
you are
so true.
operating, if you're operating in these lower aspects of grief, anger, shame, blame, guess what you're doing? You're only going to attract more of that back to you. You're only going to attract. So what you put out is what you get back. So if you're, what's this? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Of course.
A lot of us just want to heal and feel and be better, but we're not willing to take a step back and look at the mental mindset and the emotional intelligence. We think everything is happening to us instead of flipping it and saying, "Oh my gosh, this is happening for me." What kind of growth, what kind of expansion, what kind of fun through, like what I tell my clients, what about this is right that I am not getting? Because they ask me, well, what's wrong with this? Well, you're looking at it wrong. What is right about this that you're not getting? What can you take a step back and feel and heal and learn and experience? Because I know for me, I have done the most growth through the shitty, hard, unpleasant, times. But it has brought me through something, and I have been able, for my soul's evolution, to expand out and learn new things, feel new feelings, have new experiences, because there's an infinite amount of possibilities that I can experience. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's all about gaining awareness. And how do you do that? Take control of the mind. I know so many people that just allow their mind just to wander and think and do whatever the heck it wants to, but they don't understand why they're still experiencing the same stuff.
It's the same for me when I have clients that come to therapy. They've got like they're catastrophized and they're in pain. They're dealing with these things. Well, they're not dealing with it. It's like a runaway train. They're doing all these things wrong. So I can get them to deal with the root cause, process it, understand it, whatever it might be, and then I can teach them strategies on how to deal with it better, and recognize where it's coming from, all that sort of thing there. But until they have them conversations, they're just sat there going around in circles
Well, it's
against
easier to blame somebody
something.
else, shame somebody else, instead of taking a look back at myself and saying,
It's really
it
easy
can.
to, because if something's happened to somebody, often it can be caused by somebody else.
Mhm.
So it's for a lot of people, especially kind of before therapy or whatever it might be, it's difficult for them to
Yeah.
take ownership of something that
Yeah.
somebody else has caused.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
that's one of the hardest things. Yeah, I don't know from experience, but when you do that and you're like, well, this is what's happened. How do I respond to this? How do I take ownership? How do I deal with this? What can I
Well,
do?
just like for me, I had a choice
Yeah,
when
you,
the
well,
man
yeah,
that killed my son. I could have totally been in that energy of blaming him, anger, shame, resentment, regret, all of this stuff. But who was I hurting? I was only hurting Bethany. I was the only one feeling it. By
yeah,
me blaming him, what was that achieving? It
yeah,
was only making me, because my body being aura field, my electromagnetic field was collapsing in on myself. I'm putting myself
yeah.
into fight or flight.
Yeah, it reminds me of the saying, hating someone else is like drinking poison and waiting for them to die.
Mm.
And it's so true. If we're there hating somebody that's done us wrong, they're not going to go, he's hating me. I'm feeling it today. In fact, if they've done you wrong, they'll probably go, well, I'm pleased that I'm carrying on the bad work that I started. So, it's good that you
You're
can.
allowing them to win. As once you start taking control of your life, of your experiences, and you start to understand and gain the awareness that there's no, what I teach my clients is thinking is stinking, because thinking is only pulling from the past and the future into the present. When you're able to operate out of the present moment and get control of your mind, you now are a conscious, aware being. You now have choice into how you choose to think, feel, and be. And therefore, you drop the victim mindset mentality. And therefore, you understand how divine, how magical, how powerful you truly are, because we all are that. We are just unable to recognize that within ourselves.
How did you get to start working on yourself from where you were out of nowhere losing your son, and then you got all this grief and loss, and then you starting to study, and then all these crazy things are happening and things. When did you get to the point going, well, actually, I'm going to start learning this?
Well, that's the thing. Like, back in the beginning of this, I was getting those downloads. And oh my gosh, Lee, I could go back and show you these journals and the
Yeah,
stuff that I was getting at the time. I had no awareness of what it all was. But something, and my son came to me in a dream and he was like, Mom, I'm going to blow your mind today. And I was like, oh, somehow I have no doubt, Kevin. I have no doubt you're going to do that. And he said, Mom, you and I had a soul contract that I was going to give you this experience of grief, loss, death, separation. He said, and I picked you as my mother. He said, but when you embodied Mom, you totally forgot the contract, because how fun would the test had been if you known all the answers. He said, Mom, this is for your soul's evolution. And isn't it interesting when it's frequency, energy, vibration? That is the lie. That is the the lie, is that I can communicate with him just like I am with you right here, right now, because I'm choosing to feel, think, and believe higher aspects. So I'm attracting more of that to me.
yeah.
But it's
That's your
yeah, it was my
that's your
soul's journey.
yeah. That the short answer is your positive law of attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really had to start becoming very conscious, because I was not healing, and I was tired and being sick and tired of hurting, grieving. That was not for me. My personal choice was, how was I honoring my son by being miserable? My son would not have wanted that for me.
No, and that's
No.
I lost my cousin unexpectedly 2 years ago. Even right here, right now, I'm like, I still can't believe it. And I'm a
Hmm.
therapist, and I even had therapy for it and stuff, but
Hmm.
you just can't believe it. And when it was his anniversary, emotions and
Hmm.
tears and all the songs that we always play together and stuff like that. And I still found it very difficult to get through it. But people sort of said to me, he would want you to be, and it is genuine because that's the kind of guy that he was there as well. And you know all that, but it's still difficult to pull yourself out of that, and easy and I did it, to stay in that wallow and self-pity and reminiscing and stuff. It's very difficult. And I would imagine, I don't know for yourself, but you've got clients where the hardest part is the beginning of the journey with them, to get out of that part of how they're feeling.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's one of the main first questions that I ask them is, what are you hoping to get from this working with me? Because
Well,
what I am here
yeah.
to assist you with is communication and connection to the higher aspects.
So
How, go
when
ahead.
they come to you, what are the reasons they come to you? I mean, it's the nicest way because I'd imagine that, like
Sure.
with me as a therapist,
Because,
people come to me because they're desperate. Sometimes they're like, I've been everywhere else and now I've got nowhere else to go and I come to therapy. And I can imagine it's similar to yourself, where people might go and see like, of different spirituality, like a medium or something like that. Just is there a
yeah.
connection? So I'd imagine there might be certain people that come to you going like, I've got nowhere else to go. What can you do?
Yeah. Because when they get to me, they're meeting my frequency, my energy. They are seeing a healed aspect that they wish they would like to feel, be, and experience. That's why, because when you look at me, I mean, I'm thriving and
Yeah,
living my best life.
yeah.
And because I know that separation and communication is just like it's just right here. It's right now. I've got that. And so my clients are really ready to take the deep dive and get into the awareness of and learn about energy, frequency, and vibration, because that's what this whole realm is made of.
I think when people come to you, first of all, I think that just talking to you probably gives them a load of confidence because they're all going to know what you've been through.
Mhm.
They're like, "Well, she's got a bit too much energy going on. How'd you turn her down a bit?" And they're like, "Well, if she's been through this and look at her now and look what she's doing, well, there's hope here." So that must give them confidence and a lot of belief in what you're doing.
Yes, because I don't have a whole laundry list of teachings. All I got is experience and what has brought me to exactly where how I got here. And I can guide and help and facilitate because I also go in on an energetic level and look in all space, place, time, dimension, density, reality, and look where you have what I call cords, tethers, agreements that you've said I'll always remember and never forget, which are forever words. And I go in on an energetic level to pull out the unconscious and the subconscious too. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It sounds like it does sound like it's a lot of fun there as well. And I'm like I said, I'm familiar with the different levels of the vibrations and the
Yeah,
difference. And you can feel that. You can feel a
yeah.
low mood in a room. You can feel it. And
Hmm.
you can feel it. It's like when you walk into a room and there's two people that had an argument, you can feel the atmosphere. And then
Yes.
you can go into a room where you can feel there's high energy, and that's with
Hmm.
somebody that doesn't even know anything about it.
Yeah.
I know some of it of and like the law of attraction there. And from personal experience, the law of attraction, when I've complained and I've sent out negative like vibrations, I've got them back and with interest on top.
Hmm.
And you
Yes.
seem to forget when it comes to doing the good stuff, you tend to forget. And you always, oh,
Hmm.
that went really well for me. Oh, I forgot to do it. So I
Hmm.
found that when I've set my, I set once somebody, I was watching the Secret and I was like, I'm really going to do that. I'm going to hammer that. And I focused on, I want more money. I want more money, as always. Yeah. And literally after a few weeks, I get a phone call from this company that had been trying to claim back some taxes that one of my friends had passed on to me from one of my other friends. Said, Lee, fill this form in. You might get some money back on a tax rebate. I didn't know what it was. I sent it back. Months later, they phoned out and they said, yeah, Lee, you've got £7,000 coming back, and obviously we're going to take our fees. I was like, wow, that's amazing. How much am I going to be left with after you've took your fees? No, we've already took our fees. You're left with like 7,000.
Hmm.
Okay, when's it going to be in my bank? Oh, it could be like 48 hours. Okay, thanks ever so much. I can't believe my luck. Check my bank account. It was already in there, and I was
Hmm.
like, how did that even
And that's another thing that I work with my clients is manifestations. What you think about, what you bring about, you'll
Yes.
experience. And it's so interesting because a lot of us, we have been taught, programmed, and told to believe that you have to go work a 9 to 5 to get
Yeah.
money. Well,
Yeah.
money is nothing but energy. That's all that it is. So isn't it, there's an infinite amount of ways that this money could get to you. Infinite. But you have now told the universe that you believe that you have to go to work
Yeah.
from a 9 to 5 to get money. So guess how money, the only way money is going to show up for you is through a 9 to 5 of a paycheck. I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how many times, Lee, I had the same experience as you. I have checks show up in my mailbox that I have no idea how, hundreds and thousands of dollars that just pop in all the time. And I'm just like, now that's cool. Now that's fun. Now just imagine when you're in that mood of gratitude, you're so grateful to have the experience of this money. You're in full joy, excitement, happiness. What does this do to your body? Well, your electromagnetic field expands out. You're
Yeah.
now vibing and thriving. You're now, in rest and repair. You're excited. And that too is a frequency. And guess what you're doing? Attracting more of that back to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so
Exactly.
interesting how your beliefs, can constrict in on your manifestations.
And it's the same for me as being a therapist, because I wasn't always a therapist.
Yeah.
It's like a long story, but I walked away from like working in sales. I just couldn't do it anymore. I hate it. I don't care about the money. And I just had like not a vision board, but I had a vision of what I wanted to do and achieve, and
Yeah.
become a therapist there. So like in my like early 40s, I think I was going to university, and somehow just I passed this exam, passed that exam, and I got to a point where I was at university and I'm juggling full time and a separation or that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and kids and stuff. But I'm like, well, I'm managing it here. And then I got to a point going, I'm so far down the line now. Do you know what? No matter what comes my way, I don't care. I will get past it no
Yes.
matter what. And when I actually realized that, I knew that I would be fine. And I was, because I just knew that whether it sent out the good vibrations or the belief system, the confidence, or whatever it was.
Yes. And that's so interesting that you bring that up, Lee, because I had that same awareness when Kevin died. Because guess what? There's nothing in this world that can hurt me again. I have faced my biggest fear, and there is nothing that I fear anymore. Nothing. I've lived through the one thing that brought that as a parent, you know,
Yeah.
that's everything. And that was my only child. So when I had experienced my worst fear, now, for me is nothing but up. Because
Yeah.
I can't get any further down.
No.
No.
And with that, whereas other people will be looking at that and going, well, what else is there? What's next? Oh, no. You're the opposite, going, well, I'm free. I'm
Yeah.
untouchable. Nobody can touch me,
No.
because the
There's
worst thing in
power
life,
behind that. There's
yeah, oh,
power behind
of
that.
course. There's
There's power.
because of your how you see things, your belief system, everything that you're doing. It's like you're untouchable, literally.
Hmm.
Because, well,
Yeah.
okay, well, what's the worst that can happen? It's already happened. So what's next? And whatever it is never going to be as bad as what I've been through.
Yeah.
So that gives you so much strength there, and it probably gives you the confidence to go on and do things that you wouldn't have dreamed of doing 5, 6 years.
Well, yeah. And I mean, when I got in contact with my galactics, angelics, indigenous, and ancestrals, experience, I agreed to have this experience because I am now the frequency that I'm going to share and show how we can do grief done differently.
Right.
How we are, really locking and blocking ourselves from communicating with spirit, with for me, my crossed over son spirit, by locking and staying in grief. So I'm here to show that and teach grief done differently.
How long you been doing this full time then? Or what do you do? Part time, full time? How long you been
Uh,
doing?
well, 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
When did you
Yeah.
get when did you get to the point when you thought, I'm going to do this?
When my teams and Kevin came to me and said, "Mom, this is what we're doing," I was like, "You've got to be shitting me. There's no way I'm gonna no, 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 I'm not doing this." But they're like, "Oh yeah, this is what we're doing." And so, I started the company, got everything in order, created the courses, created everything. Now I've started a podcast, and this is hilarious, Lee. It's called Holy Shift Balls. And what we're doing is we're talking to different, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, inventors, the movers, the shakers, anyone that's had a holy shifting moment that has allowed them to step into their purpose, into from pain to purpose, and really out here changing it up. Yes, yes, it is. I mean, I am absolutely. having the best time with all of this.
I
Coming
think, yeah,
on, just on like on your podcast, I'm on
yeah,
several
yeah,
podcasts a week, and it's just, getting to share my heart.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the biggest thing for me is sharing my heart with the world
yeah.
and showing that there's a different possibility out here.
Yeah, and the passion you've got for it is
Yeah.
just brilliant there as well. And yeah, it inspires people. And when I set the podcast up, I was actually asking quite a few of my actual clients, look, I'm doing a podcast, always want to do a podcast. It's going to be a mental health one. What sort of mental health? Because a lot of mental health podcasts are just really dry and it's two therapists talking and it's who cares. Even I can't listen to them and I'm a therapist. So it's just
Yeah.
like I need a bit that's going to be interesting. And they all said that they wanted something where they've got somebody that's got listen to somebody that's going through some adversity that they can relate to, and they only want to hear how somebody has changed their lives, gone on to thrive, so they can feel inspired by. And I'm like, right, brilliant. There you go. I've got my brand name. It's also the same as the podcast. Perfect. And people like yourself, all different types of guests where they've been through adversity all over the world. They've all crazy stories that they've, somebody that's in a drug cartel, so there's just, an
It's
ex
so,
player. It's so
yes.
diverse. Hollywood actors been on there. I've had singers on there. Average Joes in the street that have just got an
Yeah,
amazing story. It's just so fascinating,
it
so
is.
interesting.
It is. It is. And to hear how they've changed their lives, what they've gone through,
Yeah,
what they have overcome, and where they are now to be like, hey, yeah, that happened, but look where I'm at now. So it's all about just, and that's one thing if I could share anything with your audience, is for them to know how freaking powerful, amazing, kind, creator, loving beings that they truly are. They are. And from my heart to theirs, it's just, they're amazing, amazing beings.
yeah, it's great. I
Yeah.
think what you're doing is so interesting. I think it's fantastic, and I think the difference that you're going to make to people, or you have done to people's lives, there, just giving them the confidence before they've even got started. So it's brilliant. So it's
Yeah.
been fantastic having you on the podcast, Bethany. Absolutely loved every second of it. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so
Thank
much.
thank you so much, Lee. You have a great one.
Thank you.